Tonight, the first civilian spacewalk in history, part of Elon Musk's grand plan to colonise Mars. Billionaire Jared Isaacman floated outside his SpaceX capsule with the Earth in the background in the company's riskiest mission yet. It's the stuff of science fiction, a step towards building a human colony on the red planet in our lifetime. But what's the point, and is it even possible? I'll ask the head of space exploration at the UK Space Agency. Also coming up, we report from Springfield, Ohio, the city thrown into the spotlight after the US presidential debate. Vladimir Putin warns Keir Starmer and Joe Biden against sending long-range missiles to Ukraine. And we will not be silenced. After tougher Taliban laws, the Afghan women speaking up to demand change.
This is a forced Afghan girl who can't show her face and can't introduce herself to you.
I am one of those Afghan girls who had big dreams for the future.
Do they really think we are not humans?
Good evening and welcome to the programme. I'm Jonathan Samuels. Today we witnessed the first ever privately funded spacewalk by a non-professional astronaut. It was an impressive and risky feat, and it got me thinking about billionaires in space and whether they can be a force for good. This is tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman, who paid for the mission, now the first civilian to walk in space. From up here, he said, Earth looks like the perfect world. So why, you might ask, does he not use his huge wealth to address climate change or tackle poverty, for example? Why this obsession among the super rich with space exploration and colonising the red planet? He flew with Elon Musk's SpaceX. He's another billionaire who plans to send unmanned starships to Mars by 2026. He wants to operate the first crewed flights by 2030. And if that's successful, aims to build a self-sustaining city by 2050. The way space exploration is funded has changed. NASA can no longer spend hundreds of billions in taxpayer dollars. The reliance on private industry has led to visible progress, but is it money well spent? Tonight we'll discuss that and whether this quest for humans to live on the red planet is a viable one. But let's get started with a report from our science correspondent, Thomas Moore.
To cheers from Mission Control, Jared Isaacman hauled himself from the relative safety of his capsule and emerged to stand in the void of space, 400 miles above planet Earth.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world.
The first spacewalk by a non-professional astronaut on a mission funded by the tech billionaire himself, and just a thin experimental spacesuit between him and the certain death of a vacuum.
Space is trying to kill you. You wouldn't, without the protection of a spacesuit or a vehicle, survive very long at all in space. Spacewalks have been very much a part of the sort of state-run systems in spaceflight in terms of Roscosmos, NASA, and ESA and stuff. So it's amazing to see a private individual, a private enterprise doing that.
The hatch is open on Dragon. First view from a helmet cam.
With the hatch open and no protective airlock, the entire spacecraft was exposed to the vacuum of space. Even those staying on board wore spacesuits to stay alive.
Stand in the door and then step outside.
Then it was the turn of Sarah Gillis, a SpaceX engineer.
Really cool to see one of our own out there. That's awesome.
This spacewalk was all about testing the suit. Elon Musk wants to send astronauts to build bases on the Moon and Mars. They'll need comfort and flexibility.
It looks very practical, and I think, as you say, it could be mass-produced. If we're ever going to send a lot of people out into space in serious numbers, then we have to be able to build these things more quickly and at lower cost.
For the crew of Polaris Dawn, this was a triumph. Only the commander has ever been to space before, and that was just once. Yet they pulled off a daring spacewalk, and they made it look easy. Thomas Moore, Sky News.
Quite incredible, that footage, isn't it? Well, with me in the studio is the space journalist Kate Arkless-Gray. And joining us remotely is Libby Jackson, Head of Space Exploration at the UK Space Agency. Great to see you both. Thanks for joining us in the studio. Kate, what did you make of what we witnessed earlier? It was quite something, wasn't it?
It is. It's quite amazing to think that it's a private company that has managed to do something that previously has only been done by big national space agencies. And there was a moment where I was a bit nervous because they had to depressurise the entirety of their spacecraft. So even though it was only two of them who got to sort of poke their head outside the capsule, all of them had to be in the spacesuits to be protected from the vacuum of space.
Was there a little bit, like me, of you that was disappointed that he didn't go a bit further and, float around a bit?
I had a feeling that some people might be disappointed by that. I knew that the tether wasn't that long and they weren't going to leave the spacecraft. So it doesn't quite compare to, if you think of the amazing picture of Bruce McCandless in 1984, and he had no tether whatsoever. So he was completely disconnected from his spacecraft. It was almost 100 metres away and fully reliant on basically a jetpack to get him back to the spacecraft. So it was a long way from that. But for a private company to do this, it is still quite incredible.
Yeah, baby steps, but the aim is much bigger, of course. Let's bring in Libby. What did you make of what you saw? A huge risk, this mission, but it all seemed to go according to plan.
I'm sorry, you need to repeat the question.
Yes, Libby, I was just saying, what did you make of the footage? It was a risky mission, wasn't it?
It really was. I was really pleased to see the crew seemingly perform everything that SpaceX had hoped that it would, and that the spacewalk was completed successfully. But it really is a milestone that shows the progress that commercial private entities are making in low Earth orbit, which is absolutely essential to transition the space sector from government-funded contracts being the norm to perhaps government anchor contracts, to opening up that low Earth orbit space to more entrepreneurs, to more individuals, to ensure that we get the most we can from this area for developing new materials, new pharmaceuticals, the entrepreneurship that we'll see in low Earth orbit by transitioning to a commercial economy.
Yeah, and a big part, Libby, of this mission was trying out this spacesuit, wasn't it? Tell me why that is groundbreaking.
Well, it's the first time we've seen a really new technology spacesuit demonstrated in space for some decades. Even the spacesuit that we're used to seeing the International Space Station astronauts perform spacewalks in was developed some decades ago. This is new technology. It's much thinner. It looks very comfortable to wear. It's got a digital heads-up display inside that helmet. And SpaceX will be developing this technology. They are one of the suppliers to government agencies like NASA, like the European Space Agency. Having some competition, having some new technology in there is great for taxpayers' money as we look to fund exploration missions back to the moon and onto Mars. And it will open up all sorts of things that happen in low Earth orbit as we see the transition to commercial space stations that will take the place of the International Space Station in the next few years.
Yeah, let's talk a bit more about that, Kate, because this is all about the next step, isn't it? It's about getting to the moon. It's about getting to Mars. Some people will say, look, this is costing billions of pounds, and that money would actually be better spent here on Earth tackling many of the problems that we face day to day.
I've heard that kind of argument quite often, and what you have to remember is a lot of the stuff that helps us learn about our own planet, to monitor how climate change is affecting us here, to help us when there's a natural disaster, flooding, whatever. All the satellite imagery that we get really helps us down here on Earth. And things like developing lightweight solar panels with better efficiencies, all of these things that we do in the name of exploration and pushing boundaries in space can help us down here on the ground. And every penny that's spent on space is actually spent here on Earth. So it's also helping develop businesses and jobs and a whole sector down here on Earth.
So what about this ultimate ambition, though, of Elon Musk and others, of having a planet B, you know, having Mars as a place that we can all escape to if things go really wrong here? I mean, is it realistic, and is it something that is even achievable?
Now, this is something that will split the space community. There are two different parties. One that will say we absolutely need to do this. You know, our time on Earth is limited. We need to make sure that we put some people somewhere else in the solar system in case there's a huge asteroid strike. We don't want to get wiped out like the dinosaurs. Personally, I don't believe that there is a planet B. We should spend all the money we can and use all of the learnings that we can to protect this planet for the majority of people. Because even with these amazing technological advancements, the number of people that we would actually be able to support on a mission, sending them out to Mars, developing a habitat there, and it's a far less hospitable place than Earth, even with climate change happening down here. You know, I think we'd be far better looking after our own planet for a bit longer for the most people.
All right, interesting. Let's put the same question to Libby then. Where do you stand on this debate, Libby? Do you think this idea of potentially living on the red planet and working towards that is sensible?
Well, humans have always wondered what's over the lake, round the corner, across the sea, you know, up in the air. And the reason that government space agencies choose to invest in exploration is because we get benefits back here on Earth. We push the boundaries, we develop new technologies, we inspire people to have roles in science and technology, which is fundamental to everything we do. And space agencies have this horizon goal, the challenge of one day sending humans to Mars, really because by doing so, we will discover amazing things about science, we will discover new things about technology. It is that challenge that makes us human. Whether that ever turns into long-term colonization, I see that as many, many decades away, and something in the end that will be driven, I think, by private enterprise in the same way that governments have pushed the boundaries to open up low Earth orbit. And now we're seeing this transition to commercial opportunities. So I'm not going to predict what the future lies.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Libby. Let's talk about the UK's role in all of this then. We've got a new government. Are they fully on board, do you think, with the work you're doing? And where do we stand here in the UK? Are we sort of bystanders, if you like, just watching these billionaires from America doing wonderful things? Or are we actively involved?
Well, the UK Space Agency is a very proud founding member of the European Space Agency, and we continue to be a large player in their exploration programme. The new ministers in the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, Minister Bryant, Lord Valance, they have given speeches in recent weeks highlighting the benefits of space. They understand what it can do for everybody back here on Earth. And we are delighted in the UK Space Agency to follow their direction and make sure that we deliver space for the benefit of everybody here in the UK. When you look at the Artemis programme, which NASA are leading on at the moment, the UK is playing a role in that through our membership of the European Space Agency. Companies in Bristol are building parts of the Lunar Gateway that we will see. We've got propulsion systems being developed for the cargo landers that are coming. So the UK absolutely is playing its role in these missions to the moon, back to Mars, where the UK has built a Mars rover that is going to go and look for signs of life in the coming years.
It's all very exciting, isn't it? And let's leave it on that positive note. Great to get your thoughts. Libby Jackson, Head of Space Exploration at the UK Space Agency, and Kate Arkless-Gray, space journalist. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, we've been focusing on the war in Ukraine this week, and today the Russian president made his most hawkish comments yet about the conflict. Vladimir Putin said the West would be fighting with Russia if it allowed Ukraine to strike Russian territory with Western-made long-range missiles.
Речь идет о том, чтобы принять решение о том, что
if this decision is taken, it will mean nothing less than the direct involvement of NATO countries, the United States and European countries in the war in Ukraine. This will be their direct participation, and this, of course, will significantly change the very essence, the very nature of the conflict. This will mean that NATO countries, the US and European countries are at war with Russia. And if this is so, meaning the essence of the conflict changed, We will take the respective decisions corresponding to the threats we are facing.
Well, he made those comments as Prime Minister Keir Starmer flew to Washington to discuss the issue with the US presidents. Our Moscow correspondent Ivor Bennett is in the Russian capital tonight. Good to see you, Ivor. Is this very significant or is it all rhetoric?
That's always the question, isn't it, with Vladimir Putin? I think it's certainly fair to say that these are his most hawkish comments to date on this topic, and that's really saying something, because whenever he brings it up, it provokes a very angry response indeed. It's not just his words that are angry, but also his expressions, his mannerisms. It really feels like it's personal to him and a red line if the West does give Ukraine this permission to use long-range missiles deeper inside Russia, which is why I think this is actually more than just rhetoric. The key line tonight was that the West would be in a direct fight with Russia if they give this green light to Kyiv. And his reasoning is that it wouldn't just be the weapons and permission the West would be supplying to Ukraine, it would also be the satellite communications to identify targets. It would be the operational aspect around the weapons. That's his claim, and hence why he says that NATO would be actively participating in any long-range strikes. And if that happens, he said that Russia would be forced to take appropriate decisions. He didn't spell out, however, what those would be.
President Biden and Sir Keir Starmer meeting in the next few hours. What do you think the response from them and indeed the West will be?
Well, they're going to be watching this very, very closely, of course, and discussing it tomorrow. I think they knew there would be an angry response, for sure, from Vladimir Putin. I think that's why they've kind of held back until now and not taken the plunge and given permission. They've been waiting to see what Vladimir Putin would say and weighing things up. How we've got to this point is because, according to the US and the UK, the equation has changed on the battlefield. They claim that Iran has supplied Russia with ballistic missiles to use on the battlefield. They've called it a dramatic escalation, which is why they're considering a response. And I think it's just worth reminding our viewers what US Secretary of State Antony Blinken told this programme earlier this week.
It's not simply saying, oh, should they have this weapon system or that weapon system? There are a lot of things that go into it. Do they know how to use it? And some of these sophisticated systems take training, and that's one of the other things we've done. Can they maintain it? Because if you give them something that falls apart in 7 days because it can't be maintained, that doesn't do a lot of it. And then, is it part of a coherent strategy to achieve a very clear objective? All of those things have to go into these decisions, but what I can tell you is we've adapted and adjusted every step along the way. We'll continue to do that.
So not ruling out at this stage?
We never rule out, but when we rule in, we want to make sure it's done in such a way that it can advance what the Ukrainians are trying to achieve.
So will the West risk Russia's wrath? I think tomorrow Joe Biden and Keir Starmer will be weighing up what Russia's response will be, what those appropriate decisions will be. Will Vladimir Putin follow through on that previous threat he's made about arming the West's enemies to strike Western targets abroad? Will he follow through on any of those numerous nuclear threats? The bottom line is things are very delicately poised indeed.
Ivor, many thanks. Ivor Bennett there in Moscow for us. Do stay with us on The World. After the break, we head to the city caught in a political storm. Find out what the residents of Springfield made of former President Trump claiming their pets are being eaten by migrants. Don't go away.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. We aim to be the best and the most trusted place for news.
I'm Martin Brunt, and I'm Sky's crime correspondent. We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
I'm Helen Ann Smith. I'm Sky's Asia correspondent, and I'm based here in Beijing.
We help you understand the world with us. I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. Alex Crawford joining us now from Ukraine.
Their personal possessions are all scattered around the place.
Our economics and data editor, Ed Conway, try and make sense of the big numbers for us.
Things can change incredibly quickly, and that's what they have done.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America? People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Hello again. More than 220 people have been killed in Vietnam after the country's biggest typhoon in decades. Yagi swept through Southeast Asia and reached Vietnam with winds of almost 100 miles an hour. Hundreds of rescuers are searching for survivors after flash floods and landslides. Our Asia correspondent Cordelia Lynch reports.
This is the aftermath of the most powerful typhoon to hit Vietnam in decades. The raging Red River surging to its highest level for 20 years. Deadly downpours, with many still missing. Homes submerged and lives overturned.
My family is still in shock. We can't believe it. That day I said goodbye to my son when he left for university, but it was the last time I could speak with him.
Landslides have taken their toll here, especially in the country's northern mountainous provinces. Recovering bodies is treacherous, traumatic work. In the capital, Hanoi, people waded through waist-deep muddy waters, trying their best to improvise.
We've been flooded. We don't have fresh water. We have to have drinking water brought by my wife's relative. It's flooded deep, so the tap water has been turned off. We can't cook, so we have to buy prepared food.
Electricity and tap water have been cut since Wednesday. And despite the typhoon weakening after landfall at the weekend, the rivers remain dangerously high. And it's not the only devastation in the region. Myanmar, a country wrestling with civil war, is now also fighting Mother Nature. And there's flooding in northern Thailand too, with more rain to come. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Bangkok.
To the US now, one city that's been thrown into a political storm, Springfield, Ohio. What started it all? Well, it was Donald Trump's repeated, unsubstantiated claims that Haitian migrants had eaten people's pet dogs and cats. Our US correspondent Mark Stone has been speaking to residents there.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
The people that came in, they're eating the cats.
It was an extraordinary claim. So what is really going on in Springfield, Ohio?
I see a lot of pets that have disappeared.
Really?
On Facebook.
What do you know? What have you seen?
I know all our ducks are gone.
What do you think about it? Have you heard about it?
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen anything really.
Yeah. And you're not worried about your dog?
No.
And who's eating them?
I have no idea.
Right, no.
But then a man who didn't want to be on camera with a hint of how these conspiracies are seeded.
I've never seen nothing going on with the dogs and the cat, except what I've seen on TikTok with the Springfield police.
Yeah.
Arresting the lady for eating a cat.
Yeah.
That's.
And she was from Ohio.
I think she's from Haiti, wasn't she?
Why'd you kill the cat? This is the video he's seen. Police footage of a woman being arrested for allegedly killing and eating a cat. Yes, but she isn't a Haitian migrant. She is American. She was born here. And this isn't Springfield either. Across this town, we have not found anyone who has seen pet-eating immigrants. The dogs seem safe. The cats are roaming loose. The instinct then may be to laugh at this Trumpian rhetoric. Indeed, the Haitians of Springfield can see the funny side too.
The Haitian don't hitting the cat, the dog. No, it's not no culture to hitting that.
Montes, look.
But within this cat and dog story, there are some actual truths, because there are huge challenges here over immigration.
This is your passport and your paperwork.
Vitio is one of 15,000 who have arrived here in this town from war-torn Haiti since 2000. The pressures on services and society are understandable.
You left your country, you know what, you left your country, the working, go school, study. It's okay.
Casey Rollings runs the centre.
How did you feel when you heard Donald Trump's words the other night?
I was physically ill. Still am. I can't even react. I mean, I can't even repeat it. It's just unfathomable to me. But that's what happens when hysteria is spread, and, all kinds of fictional narratives. And it's really, really doing harm to our world.
We looked at another view from another Springfield resident that has gone viral.
I feel like we have been invaded by some sort of pest. I'm angry that my friends and family are packing up and moving away. I'm angry that foreigners are using up the resources that were set up for the Americans that reside here.
Every community, every culture has its myth and its folklore. I guess we're hearing it.
The tensions in the town are clear, but they are being fanned. This accident last year was caused by a Haitian driver. This 11-year-old died. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, said online he was murdered by migrants. Listen, though, to the boy's father.
I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone.
And so there it is, the anatomy of a conspiracy about cats and dogs in a country where there are so many different truths. Mark Stone, Sky News in Springfield, Ohio.
Well, those unfounded claims began picking up traction last Friday when a Facebook post among residents of Springfield, Ohio, accused Haitians of killing and eating local pets. There'd been similar allegations, also without evidence, at an earlier City Commission meeting. Well, it spread more widely on Monday when Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, posted about it on his X account. Then Donald Trump repeated the rumour during Tuesday's presidential debate with Kamala Harris, prompting Springfield officials to step in and declare there's no credible evidence of any such crime. Well, let's bring in Mark, who's in Springfield still for us. Mark, all rather bizarre, isn't it? But it highlights what is a serious issue migration is for so many voters across America.
Yeah, it does, but it is a rather strange way, if that's what the Team Trump are trying to do, to raise the issue of immigration. It is a strange way to do it, to make something up, because that is what has happened here. We have found a number of people, quite a few people, who have heard the rumours, but no one who has actually seen any Haitians eating dogs or cats. There are rumours too that some of the ducks and geese have been going missing in the local ponds here. But again, no one that we could find has actually seen that. This is all about the conspiracy incubator that is social media, that would stay within a certain bracket if it wasn't for the fact that the man who wants to be president has amplified it so loudly to, let's remember, 60 plus million people who were watching that debate and many more who have watched it since then. But the serious point behind all of this is that, yes, America has, like Europe, huge challenges with immigration. Yes, the southern border and the immigration policies for America and the asylum policies are broken and have been for decades. Yes, this is a problem that the Biden administration has been grappling with, and migration has gone up and now gone down during the Biden administration. But it's a problem that has been an American problem for decades over many different administrations. But clearly, Donald Trump looks at the polls. He sees that a majority of Americans believe that he, not Kamala Harris, can get a grip of immigration, and he is running with that, albeit with unfounded conspiracy theories, which have a real impact, as you saw in my report there, a real impact, a dangerous impact on society here.
Of course. And Mark, tell me about the White House press secretary, who is of Haitian descent and has been speaking this evening.
Yes, Karine Jean-Pierre, you'll be familiar with her. She is President Biden's spokesperson, and she, as you say, of Haitian descent, was asked about this, about what Donald Trump said at the briefing today. You know, it's interesting. They are not, she is not really supposed to talk about any election issues. There's something called the Hatch Act, which she should stand by and shouldn't talk about election issues. She's chosen in this case to go a little further than maybe she should. And she said maybe we should not have leaders who fall for fake internet conspiracy theories. We should think about that. Our country deserves better. She was also asked about a woman called Laura Loomer, who is a known conspiracy theorist in America, a woman who has put out over the course of the past few days on X some pretty racist stuff and has in the past said 9/11 is an inside job. Why was she asked about Laura Loomer? Well, because Laura Loomer is within Donald Trump's circle. Indeed, Laura Loomer got off the plane, Trump Force One, just behind Donald Trump, or just in front of him, in fact, when he arrived in Philadelphia. Donald Trump is surrounding himself with some pretty questionable characters, and I think that goes to the heart of why this dogs and cat story has brought us to Springfield.
Yeah, bizarre. Thank you very much indeed, Mark Stone, our US correspondent. Do stay with us on The World. After the break, the voices the Taliban wanted to silence. We hear from the women inside Afghanistan about the effect of draconian new laws forbidding them from speaking in public. Welcome back. I want to focus on Afghanistan now. It is the only country in the world where secondary and higher education is forbidden to girls and women. Afghan girls over the age of 12 haven't been to school for 1,095 days. Women are banned from working in most sectors outside the home and are already banned from gyms, parks and hair salons. New laws from Taliban's Vice and Virtue Department require women to hide their faces and bodies and remain silent in public. So, what's it like when your home becomes your prison? 8 women sent us video messages from inside Afghanistan. Here's what they had to say.
Hello, this is Angel. Women's rights are human rights.
Today I have a message to share with you. I hope you listen to us, feel us and understand us. This is a forced Afghan girl who can't show her face and can't introduce herself to you.
I'm alone with my daughters. During the day, if I need something, even bread or water, we have to wait until my husband comes to home at night. Sometimes this problem makes me and my daughters sick because the Taliban government does not allow us to leave the house.
My husband was killed by Taliban. As a mother, I am worried about my daughter's future, and I cannot go to hospital because I don't have any legal mail in my house.
And even they can't talk. Can you imagine? We can't talk outside. We even can't talk loudly inside our home.
Afghan women and girls are deprived of their fundamental rights, which includes education, freedom, working. Here, girls and women do not have the right to speak. Women today is not the same as they were 20 years ago. All my aspirations have been shattered.
If these laws are not prevented, everything is possible by Taliban. With these rules, the Taliban don't even allow us to dream about our future.
I'm one of those Afghan girls who had big dreams for the future. I wanted to continue my study and go to university, but nothing happened like this. I want to become a good doctor in the future, but my dreams remain dreams.
Today, it is more than 2.5 years that me and millions of Afghan girls are deprived from schools. And we count every single day for reopening the doors of the schools. Unfortunately, today Afghanistan is the only country on the planet Earth where women and girls are banned from education right. It is heartbreaking.
Do they really think we are not humans? We do not have feelings. We have nothing. They say to not talk loud even at home because your neighbors will hear your voice. And this is a big sin. I'm asking you, can you really imagine yourselves in this situation? We also want education like you. We also want jobs like you. We also want to be independent like you. It totally makes us hopeless about our future. But still, I hope one day we Afghan women can get our rights and be independent in making a decision about our life and about our future.
Really quite upsetting, isn't it? The voices the Taliban tried to silence there. Well, more than 100 Afghan women are meeting at a summit in Albania to discuss how to seize back their rights. And I'm joined now by Nargis Nihan, a former Afghan politician who served as an acting minister in the previous government. Thank you very much for your time. You must be distressed listening to those women there. What are your experiences of exactly what is going on in Afghanistan at the moment?
Well, Jonathan, it's a very difficult process for all of us to go through. We have been working so hard in the last 20 years with the hope that we are going to hand over a different Afghanistan to our next generation. We were very much hoping that our next generation, young generation, should not go through the challenges that we were going through. But I find it heartbreaking, disappointing, frustrating when I see that you're actually going through more restrictions and more challenges that we were going through. And I really hope that we will be able to make a change and change the situation for them in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I'll ask you perhaps how we can do that in a moment, but I'm interested in how closely the Taliban are monitoring these laws and enforcing them, and when they find a woman or a girl who breaks them, what are the punishments?
Well, as you, Jonathan, you're very well aware, more than 2 weeks ago, the Taliban adopted the vice virtue law that they call it, and according to that, they have come with different provision, putting a lot of new restrictions on women, including forbidding them for talking in public when they go out. And then beside that, they have also banned women from communicating and talking to women outside their family members. And beside that, they have also put a lot of restriction on main civil society, media, and they have totally shrunk the space for freedom of expression and civic activities in Afghanistan. And it's very difficult. So based on contact that I have in Afghanistan with women in different provinces, the level of implementation is different in the provinces because every province is right now in the process of preparing themselves for the implementation of the law. But what we see that already they are having the morality police in different provinces of Afghanistan, that they go around and they have started beating women, beating boys for boys for not growing their beards, for women if they go out, if they don't have any male guardian with them, or if they just hear them talking or hear their voices.
So, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? But what are you hoping to achieve by holding this summit in Albania?
Look, Jonathan, we are the women that we have been very active in the development of our country in the last 20 years. And all of us have been working in different positions and have more engaged in development and in all affairs of our country. In August 2021, when the Taliban took Afghanistan, we were still in Afghanistan, and within, as you're aware, within 2 weeks, all of us were evacuated to different countries. So we are now scattered all around the globe. And in the last 3 years, all the activism and all the advocacy and all the resistance that you and rest of you can see from Afghan women, we have been doing all of them virtually with each other, and it has been really difficult. I mean, resistance and making noise and criticizing has been something that we have been able to do it. But for us, in order to build strategies and build consensus that how we want to organize ourselves, how we want to unify our voices, how we want to develop a unified message for the world, what should we do after the enactment of this law, and what advices should we give to the international community is what we are trying to achieve through this summit. And this is quite incredible. More than 140 women from across the world, from different countries and different continents, including Afghanistan. After 3 years, we have managed to come together, thanks to the government of Albania, because we knocked the door of so many countries, those that they used to call themselves our allies, to give us the space so that we can come together, we can have a meeting, and we can develop our strategies, but none of them hosted us. Apparently, they were thinking we had to take absolute Taliban. But Albania came forward, hosted us, and we are here. We are discussing day and night. It's right now 10:30. Still, all of us are up discussing and trying to build consensus for some of the key messages that we want to develop and some of the key strategies that we would like to adopt for our way forward.
Yeah, well, your voice is certainly being heard loud and clear. We thank you very much for your time this evening. Nargis Nahan, a former Afghan politician, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Do stay with us here on The World after the break. Could the so-called narco sub be on the rise? Well, the Royal Navy's intercepted a submersible carrying £160 million worth of cocaine. I'll tell you more about that next.
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Wall Street! Wall Street!
Well, the plan seems to be to head to the police station where the policeman who fired the shots was based.
And everything you know, his memories is all gone.
In almost every corner, this town has been completely destroyed by the fire. I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here, but the anger too.
Trump out of the White House.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
I report on the biggest stories from around the world. This is a town that is effectively encircled by the Russians. You say it's all fabrication, what's happening in Bucha?
Destroyed my nation.
We take you to the heart of stories that shape our planet. Yeah, I can hear now quite a few explosions in the distance here in Jerusalem. A very violent series of confrontations here. What do you think of ISIS?
Everybody here knows the truth of ISIS.
I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm Sky's Midlands correspondent. We can reveal that the driver who hit Harry Dunn is 42-year-old Anne Sakoulas.
Just met the president and we never thought we'd get this far.
This is what they're up against, is back-breaking work. Water levels are dropping, but no one knows what impact further rain will have. What would you do if this place wasn't open? We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
It's really scary.
In this community, I'm told that everybody knows someone affected by COVID. Change seems tantalisingly close in this corner of the UK. This is my patch, my specialism. It's also my home. They keep telling us that they want aid. And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
Just want to jump in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Hello again. Now, they've been used by drug cartels for years and they're becoming even more sophisticated. I'm talking about so-called narco subs. Well, today, the Royal Navy confirmed that the warship HMS Trent seized one of the submersibles carrying £160 million worth of cocaine. Dramatic pictures show the moment soldiers boarded the drug smuggling submarine in the Caribbean Sea. Well, I've been speaking to Ray Donovan, former Chief of Operations at the Drugs Enforcement Administration. Great to have you with us, Ray. I had no idea that drug smugglers used submarines. Explain what they look like and how they're operated.
Well, they use semi-submersible submarines, which are built to just ride below the crest of the water or the ocean water, so they can blend in with the ocean and smuggle large amounts of cocaine from South America into the Caribbean and from there onwards to the United States and or Europe.
And they're pretty well camouflaged, aren't they? So tricky to spot. How many people can be inside them and how much cargo can they hold?
So it really depends. We started seeing semi-submersibles around 2006, and that was mainly geared towards the Pacific Ocean, coming up from South America into Mexico. We've seen large semi-submersibles that were able to hold 7,000 kilos. But more often than not, they're much smaller and they can only hold maybe 2 people. 2 or 3 people at most.
And can they travel far distances?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've seen them travel 1,000 nautical miles up the coast through the Caribbean Sea. It's more a Pacific coast thing that we've really seen coming out of places like Ecuador. We don't often see them in the Caribbean coming from South America.
And it seems pretty bold to be carrying 2,000 kilograms of cocaine.
Absolutely. It's extremely bold and dangerous. Going into open sea with a vessel that was built just to smuggle narcotics, and it's often shoddy work. So it's dangerous. And those individuals are putting their lives on the line to transport those narcotics from places like La Guajira, Colombia, into the Dominican Republic.
Wow, so these submarines are actually built to order.
Absolutely. They're built specifically to transport legal narcotics, in this case, cocaine loads.
So tell me a bit more about the routes that these smugglers use. You say it's unusual to see these submarines in the Caribbean. Where do you think this shipment was heading?
So that's correct. So this shipment more than likely was headed to the Dominican Republic. So the Dominican Republic is more and more, at least in the last decade or so, has become an international hub for cocaine shipments. So we would often see South American boats destined for the Dominican Republic, where the loads of cocaine would be offloaded and then smuggled into Puerto Rico and eventually destined for Florida. And or big cargo shipments would refuel in the Dominican Republic and pick up cocaine loads destined for Europe, places like Spain or the Netherlands. And then from there, it would get dispersed throughout Europe, including the UK. And so it's a transshipment point. We've seen many transnational criminal groups that historically weren't established in the Dominican Republic that are more and more there to receive shipments and to send them out.
And the Navy has said that there was a high-speed nighttime chase. So presumably these submarines can actually maneuver pretty fast.
Well, more and more they can, right? It's still, you're talking about a lot of weight holding them down. They're not, this one in particular was not that big of a vessel, but 2,000 kilos is quite heavy, right? So it really takes a sophistication, a lot of technology, and sometimes it's just human intelligence and observation that will bring in the Navy working with the U.S. Coast Guard to go after these vessels. But in particular, they're going to look towards a transit zone, right? They know through many years of experience what's a transit zone. Look, so these vessels, you don't want to go off too far course and get lost at sea. So going directly from point A to point B would be their most likely route.
Fascinating, isn't it? Ray Donovan there, former Chief of Operations at the Drug Enforcement Administration. Now, just before we go, I want to bring you the moment an unlikely hero helped a woman step away from the ledge of a bridge. Let's have a look. Can you tell who it is? It's the rock legend Jon Bon Jovi. He was caught on CCTV coming to the aid of a woman in Nashville, Tennessee. The star, wearing a dark-coloured jacket and trousers, was reportedly filming a music video when the woman was spotted on the other side of the railings. He appears to slowly approach her and they speak before he helps her climb back to safety. The local police force praised the star online, thanking him for his help. What a hero. Well, thank you very much for joining us on the programme this week. We heard those comments from Vladimir Putin earlier. The most hawkish he's been. Tomorrow, Joe Biden and Sir Keir Starmer will meet. Will they authorise sending their long-range missiles to Ukraine? Good night.